say the game is getting old. Monday morning and your coffee's cold. Life is not what you want it to be. You need another chance to be.
John Tamney, author of the book. I'm going to show it right now for those of you who've been waiting. The End of Work. I'm holding the book up right now so that you all can see it. The End of Work, Why Your Passion Can Become Your Job, and by John. And John Tamney is out of Washington, D.C., and fabulous book. I really want you to buy the book. Not only do I want you to buy the book, I want you to hire him to speak, because the guy is an economic genius. And he is looking at economics from, I think, if you've never heard of Henry Hazlitt, I really highly suggest that you read Henry Hazlitt's book from, I think it's the 50s, on economics, because what Henry Hazlitt has said is all come true. All of it has come true about looking at us as individuals and then looking at us as a society, as a group, because we dictate. Governments don't dictate it, we dictate how the economy is going to run, and it's really very cool. And we're talking to John right now. And John, I want to tell you that hopefully I didn't mess up Henry Hazlitt's book too much there.
Oh, no.
One of the things, John, that blows me away is that sometimes we get stuck. And I think there is a piece of me, and I'm asking you to go deeper in the book psychologically here, and probably you weren't intending for this conversation to happen, but it's going to. But I think sometimes we get stuck. I think there's a part of us that gets afraid to say, if I really did what I wanted to do, I will never be able to make a living. But that's not true, is it?
No, it's not true, and I think you're 100% correct. I think it's easy for us to say, yeah, I'd like to do that, but I can't because it's not realistic economically. Well, that's an easy way out. And look, my point is, happiness is hard. Happiness is blood, sweat, and tears. If it were about If happiness were about not working, one of your fellow Nebraskans, Warren Buffett, could write a lot of us checks that would free us from working for the rest of our lives. But he couldn't give us happiness. Happiness comes from doing something that you love very well, and so it's hard work, but it doesn't feel like work. And you can only do that if you find that which elevates what's unique about you. And I'm not saying it's easy. I didn't become a writer overnight.
Right.
I had to have a lot of failure on the way to becoming a writer. I had to do a lot of jobs to pay the bills that had nothing to do with writing so that I could be a writer. But it was all worth it, because now look at what I'm doing. I am literally paid to read and write my opinions and speak my opinions and write books. I am paid to get to talk to interesting people like you and get to talk about my book to thousands of people listening to you. Can you believe that?
That's amazing.
But it took a long time to get here. Happiness is hard. It took a lot of embarrassment. It took a lot of uncomfortable conversations to get to this point, but it's worth it. And I just think some people will say, okay, I don't want to go through the interim steps, which is fine, but you're avoiding happiness that it can only result from taking those interim steps that are sometimes difficult.
Yeah, I like to say I'm an overnight success after 20 years of sweat and failure. And,
yeah, that's right. Yes,
is what I like to tell people, because it just doesn't happen that way. And by the way, I got into this late. Okay, I mean, I got into this whole thing late. So. And I want to encourage people, I didn't write my first book till I was 50. I'm 54. And I didn't write my first book, and we got it into bookstores, and it did really well, and it's on Amazon. It's still out there, and people listen to me read my book on Audible, and I'm always blown away and embarrassed, grateful, certainly. But I got into this thing late because writing was an accident, because I was always told I was never a good writer, but I loved writing. And I even had to take remedial English in college, but I loved writing. And it was my editor who told me, Suzanne Murray, by the way, Suzanne, if you're watching, my editor said to me, she said, "You're an amazing writer. You can say things in a way that no one else can say them and make them feel at home." And that was all I needed. Isn't that amazing? I just needed someone to just say to me, who I felt was a good authority to say to me, "You're a great writer." And yet in college I was told I was awful because I couldn't figure out where a semicolon went. And it's really interesting. I think sometimes we major on the minors and minor on the majors so frequently. And when I read your book, and you alluded this to, I read your book, the truth of the matter is we're all on a journey, and you were on your journey, and you were selling, and you worked for Goldman Sachs. You were doing things that you didn't necessarily like to do, but you were pretty darn good at them. I mean, because you were still a pretty good salesman, right?
I think I was, but as I note in the book, I'm at Goldman, and most days I was the first one in the office and everything, but I thought, I can't be these guys. These guys around me just love equities. The whole thing about it just excited them on a level. And it took me a while to understand it, but I thought I kind of understood I can never win here. It wasn't that I was going to necessarily fail, but I could never be great like they were. And so luckily it was just agony at the time. It was embarrassing. It took me years to get over, but ultimately they laid me off. There were mass layoffs in 2001, and I was one of the people that was let go. It was brutal. I have dreams about it to this day, but it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I was at Goldman thinking that I was lazy. I was thinking that I lacked the work ethic that the people there had. They just couldn't get enough of their work. Turns out I wasn't lazy. Everyone's got work ethic, so do I. It's just I was in the wrong job. When it comes to writing, it's nothing for me to write all weekend. It's nothing for me when I've got free time to go sit down and write an op-ed or add to the books I write, because it's something I love uncontrollably. I'm an incredibly hard worker. I just never knew it, and I think that describes a lot of people. For those of you out there listening who think you're lazy, you are not lazy. If you feel lazy, it's because you're doing that which doesn't reinforce your unique skills and, yes, your intelligence. Happiness is hard. You must find that which you can't get enough of, because that will unleash your innate work ethic.
Wow. Amen. Do I say amen there? Is that because I'm telling you what John preached?
That's what I keep saying. I mean, and see, you know this because you played sports, and I think that's so crucial. Sports Illustrated is one of the greatest teachers of life, I think, that exists on earth, the great magazine. And what fascinates me about it is the endless stories of the work these athletes put in. They're incredibly intelligent in their chosen profession, and they put in enormous amounts of work. We always hear it about investment bankers, about scientists, but athletes do too. They're the investment bankers of their field. That they are doing things that they love uncontrollably, and they have a knowledge of it it's at a level of what you and I feel we have about our chosen careers. And so that the hours they put in, we're all like this. We've just got to find what makes us like this.
You're joining us here on Facebook Live and live all over the place. And also, you'll be listening to this, of course, on iTunes later, and whatever your favorite podcast is, you can listen to that as well. And you're watching A New Direction with me, Jay Izso. And I'm talking to outstanding author, magnificent guest. Matter of fact, you almost brought a tear to my eye. John Tamney, The End of Work, Why Your Passion Can Become Your Job. You said something there that hit me in my soul so hard. I felt I was having to go through an emotional control moment, because it was so beautiful. Listen, this book is worth it. Listen, don't just buy one. Buy one for you, and then buy one for someone else, and give it to them, because I'm going to tell you something. This book is just, to me, it was a life-changing experience to kind of open my eyes to stuff that I kind of felt inside, but I was unable to express, and John has expressed it and then put the economics to it, and you kind of go, whoa, and And it's the end of work while your passion can become your job. Any bookstore, find it. Amazon's got a hardcover, audiobook, Kindle, MP3, CD, however you like consuming books. He's got it in every way possible that you can do that. Great book. I'm holding it up to the camera again so everybody can see it. Van, just a great book. You know what, John, as you're talking, one of the things that struck me, and I think you made mention of this in the book too, is that, we've been really hard on millennials, very, very hard on millennials. And I don't. And first of all, I don't like even calling them millennials. They're just another generation. Okay. And we've accused them of being lazy and entitled and all these things. And I am so infuriated by that, because I was accused of being lazy and entitled and, irresponsible, and I was all those things. I really was. I was accused of being all those things, and rebellious, right? Wouldn't listen, wanted to do my own thing. And then I read your book and I go, you know what? When these young people find what they're great at, and here's what I love about them. They don't want to just go to a job, because they understand that a job is just over broke. That's what that means. Just over broke. That's the definition of a job. All right. They don't want to go to a job. They want to do something that makes a difference in their life, that fits them. And when you say you're not lazy, you just haven't found what fits you, you could not be more accurate. You could not be more accurate, because I have been in that position even in my 40s, where I was doing something and I could do it and I was competent at it, but I was miserable. I dreaded every day I was doing it. And I was miserable at it. And I was still doing it, but I didn't enjoy it. And then I think, this is the thing that we say about millennials. They just don't want to work. No, they do. They just want to work at what they're good at. Right? Am I catching the essence of that?
Oh yeah, of course. And think about what you're describing about yourself, or what people said about you when you were younger. You're, I believe, Generation X, like I am. They made movies about our generation. reality bites, Singles. Yeah. What's the other one? Slacker. There was a book about us called Generation X by Douglas Coupland, saying that we were going to underperform our parents. We were going to live with our parents. We were going to work at Gap and fold shirts for life.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do.
And then the internet boom happens. Created by Generation X. These kids grew up around the technology and were closer to it, and they became the richest generation in the history of the richest nation in the history of the world. To be clear, they say about every generation what they said about you. And all that signals is that we're experiencing amazing economic progress. People look at younger people and they think, oh, look at how easy you have it. Look at how aimless you are. Well, of course it's easy, because the economy gets better and better. And so people get more at a younger age. They also don't have to mature as quickly, simply because they're living longer. They can earn a lot of money a lot more quickly. Right. But to be clear, there's a great book called A Message to Garcia. It's actually a pamphlet that everyone in the military is required to read, and it's about how don't ask questions, just do what you're told. But it was written by a businessman in 1899. He was describing young people in 1899, and he was saying they're imbecilic, lazy, they only want to do what's in their job description. Now think about it. That you could take A Message to Garcia and you could apply it to millennials today, and you could say it was written about them, and no one would notice the difference. Every generation they talk bad about, because every generation is more has it easier than the one before them, but they all eventually discover their calling in life, and they become extraordinarily rich and successful. Mark my words, I put in the book, millennials be the richest generation in the history of the U.S. until the next generation surpasses them. What we're saying about them is what's said about every generation. And to your point, of course, millennials want to work, but they're more choosy about it, which they should be. Thank goodness They get to be choosy about their work. Again, 150 years ago, you didn't have any choices. You knew what you were going to do. Thank goodness they don't have to go through that. And imagine what their kids will get to do. If their choices are going to be staggering, I wish I could live another 200 years to see the kind of work that's going to be around in the future. It's going to be amazing.
I totally agree. We're talking with John Tamney, author of the book, The End of Work, Why Your Passion Become Your Job. I could not agree with you more. I also believe, I really believe that, and I think this falls into something that you said in your book too, is that technology hasn't reduced the number of jobs. The only jobs it's reduced are the low-paying jobs. Technology has just actually increased our ability to make more money. Right? I mean, did I read?
Oh, absolutely.
Did I read that wrong?
No. If it were about creating jobs, let's just abolish the computer, the ATM, the car, and Wi-Fi. Everyone will be working. We'd be incredibly poor, but we'd all be working.
Right.
All robots and automation do is they erase the parts of work that we hate. Robots and automation will be the biggest job creators in history, but what's crucial here is they'll be the biggest creators of jobs that we love. They're going to make us fall in love with work, because the more that you can automate away what's not important, you're able to specialize.
Right.
And what are specialized workers like? They're happy workers because they're doing that which reinforces them. We get to do what we love because we've automated so much away. Let's go. But you're a farm child, so you understand this. You probably get this better probably than I do. 150 years ago, I keep going back to this, most people knew their path in life. Once they were able, they were going to work on a farm 6 days a week, dawn to dusk, whether they loved it or hated it. And then robots came along, the tractor, fertilizer, things that reduced the number of hands required to create the food necessary to survive. These were the biggest job destroyers in history. But as opposed to putting people in bread lines, they didn't do that. They freed people up to showcase their unique skills and intelligence. They were able to cure disease, create the automobile, create the airplane, become entertainers, become athletes, become coaches, teachers, psychiatrists. Thank goodness Jay Izso wasn't born 150 years ago, because I don't think Jay is a very happy person 150 years ago, simply because all that you do for a living today wasn't an option back then. All these immense skills you had would have been suffocated by a lack of robots back then, a lack of automation that would have forced you to pursue a very narrow career path, when in fact the range of work that you do expands all the time.
It does. It literally does. People say, well, what are you going to do next? And I say, I don't know. Because I said, this thing has just mushroomed. It just keeps growing. And I said, but I don't mind it. I love doing what I'm doing. I am excited. And yes, have I monetized this podcast live thing? Not yet, but I'm going to tell you it's coming. I will, because it's going to happen, because I have watched too many people do this thing, and they're able to monetize it and make quite a great living, as a supplemental income. And I love doing this. John, there's nothing better as a talker. There is nothing better than to talk to people about what you've learned in your book. Okay, I'm serious. There's just nothing better for me to do that. And here I am talking to you, the expert in this, and I'm going, okay, is he verifying my ideas? Is he solidifying those things for me? I mean, this is the beautiful thing about what I do. I am constantly expanding my repertoire because of you. You're giving more to me than I could ever give to you. I'm pushing your book. I'm holding your book up to the camera right now. Mevo is looking at the camera, and I'm putting The End of Work, Why Your Passion Can Become Your Job. And why aren't you buying this book right now? Do you know that on Amazon you can do that thing? It says buy now with one click. Buy now. Click that. Buy now with one click. Buy this book. Because you give me more. I always tell my guests, you give me so much more than this, and that it ends up expanding what I do, which is amazing to me.
Isn't it true? It's wonderful, and it's a modern thing. let's be clear. If not for one of the great robots of all time, the internet, odds are we're not speaking today. Odds are you don't have a way to reach people with all the things that impassion you. And so it doesn't mean that you're starving.
No.
But it does mean that you're probably less of a fulfilled person. And what should excite everyone listening is to listen to Jay Izzo's passion. Listen to my passion. We are so lucky to get to do what we do. But where it gets really fascinating is imagine a couple generations from now, the myriad ways in which people will get up thinking, I can't wait for today to begin because that's where I get to be a star. Warren Buffett gets to be a brilliant capital allocator. He's excited about every day because every day is an affirmation of what's brilliant about him. I'm merely describing a world in which more and more people will view the workday in the way that Warren Buffett is, because work is where people get to be superstars. I contend that we're headed for a time in which people will say, in which retirement will become a dated notion, as in people will say, retire. Why on earth would I stop doing what I love? This wasn't in the book, but I put out an op-ed in support of the book about Peyton Manning. When he retired from the NFL, he was bawling. Tiger Woods has been fighting for years to not have to quit golf. Both men have more money than they'll ever need. But work is what elevates them. It's what they love to do. And I contend more and more people will feel about work what Jay Izso does, what Tiger Woods does, what Peyton Manning does. And that's a wonderful thing.
I agree so wholeheartedly because I don't want to retire. I have now found things that I love to do. I don't want it to end. I don't want to go riding off into a sunset somewhere and do whatever. No, I want to do this. I don't want. Matter of fact, I just learned recently that in the old Jewish language, I'm not Jewish, but I study some, and in Hebrew, in the old Hebrew, there's no word for retirement. There's no word. There is no word for retirement in the old Hebrew language.
I love it.
Is that crazy? There's no word. Because I don't think we were ever meant to retire. I think we were just meant to change maybe something, but our usefulness doesn't end with age. Matter of fact, we have something more to give as we get older. There's something more that we need to pass on to the next generation if our minds are open to it. And
yes, we have knowledge.
Absolutely.
We have immense knowledge. Why would you want to quit doing what you enjoy so much? But, it wasn't always that way. You look back to the past, and what always fascinates me when people say we're going to bring back manufacturing jobs. That is such a backwards way of looking at the world, simply because remember the culture of the steel mill towns. They used to make movies about them that the kids were always trying to escape it. And their parents were saying, don't do what we do. These jobs will maim you. They'll kill you. Get out. Go get to do something else. Work used to be something that we did to survive. People say we eat to live. We used to work in order to live. Now we live to work, and that's a really exciting thing.
I so agree with you. We've been talking to John Tamney, and I've taken him overtime. Sorry, folks, that I've taken him overtime. I'm sorry to you, John. I've taken you overtime. And we have been talking with him about different aspects of this book entitled "The End of Work: Why Your Passion Can Become Your Job," and by John Tamney. And John, I could talk to you for hours because I didn't even get to venture buyers, which I found a brilliant concept. I didn't even get to that. And because I find that fascinating, and millionaires and why we need them, and billionaires and why we need them, and I didn't even get to that part because I wanted to throw in Shark Tank, and I wanted to kind of talk about the idea of, think about it. Shark Tank is a bunch of multimillionaires who take people who have no money but have an idea and make them wealthy. I love that. I just love that whole concept. We need those people, right? We do. We just do.
Oh, yes. If without them, we need people who have unspent wealth. They're the most crucial drivers of success and progress of anyone, because there are no entrepreneurs without capital. The rich, by virtue of being rich, haven't spent it all, and they have no choice short of stuffing it under a mattress but to put it to work. And so you go after the rich. You're going after the opportunity for every single American who's not, but who's got a dream, some kind of idea that they'd like to turn into a commercial reality. And so it's crucial. The end of work is paved by very rich people. And by that, I mean the very rich people will make the investments that lead to progress, that will lead to jobs that people will say, my goodness, I can't believe people are paying me to do this. So you go after the rich at your peril. This is not an ideological statement.
No.
This is just a statement of reality.
No, and I agree with you. This isn't a political statement. This is not an aisle statement. This is just the reality of it is such that I don't think people understand. The government is not going to pay you for your great idea. It's going to take somebody who's got a lot of excess money who's going to pay you for your idea and make you have the ability to invest in someone else who doesn't have the money but has a great idea. It just works that way. And the more you talked about it, the more I went, golly, that just makes so much sense. Of course, that's the way it works. Of course, that's why Barbara Cochran and Mark Cuban are looking at how they're going to invest their excess wealth into people who don't have it. Right?
They've got money to lose that cannot be stressed enough. Shout it from the mountaintops. ESPN exists today because the Getty family was so rich that they had $10 million to lose on a sports concept that was a complete joke to all serious people. So the Getty family had $10 million to lose, and the rest is history. We have ESPN today. Only the rich have the means to take risks on ideas that most people reject. And so if you take away their wealth, you are taking away progress. Sorry, but it's true.
It's so good. All right, John, listen, I'm going to finally let you go because I know you got to get going and do your thing. I have been talking to John Tamney, The End of Work, Why Your Passion Can Become Your Job, and I want to talk to him more. And I'm going to go to Washington, D.C. I'm going to look you up, and you and I are going to go and have dinner and a nice bottle of something. And
the plan.
So because I'm just about 5 hours from you, so I'm going to do that. This book, I'm holding it up here so that you all can see it, This End of Work. You need to purchase this book. Again, it's available. It's less, the hardcover book alone is less than $20 on Amazon. Get it Amazon Primed, okay? Audio book, Kindle book, the MP3 CD, however you like to listen to it, buy the book. And don't just buy it for yourself and be selfish. Buy it for someone else. Folks, we're getting closer and closer to the holiday time. Matter of fact, don't blink because Christmas is going to be here. So why don't you, if you're kind of wondering what would be a great gift to give my college student or, maybe somebody who's been kind of figuring out, I want to do something different and why they would want to. This is a great book. Buy it. Get it for them. And it's a perfect book. It's a great gift, but it's going to be great for you and it's going to give you a new direction. John, before I let you go, the one thing I always ask my guests is if you could give one last paragraph or two on helping our folks find a new direction for either their life, their business, or their career, what would you like to end it on?
What would I like to end it on? I think the best thing to say is to seriously think about what it would pain you not to do. Because once you think about that, what would you do on a daily basis if money were no object? Because once you think in terms of that, your options are endless. I'm sorry. In the United States, there's a job for you, and there's a well-paying job associated with what you love to do. It's literally anything. There are people nowadays who make money because they're shoppers, because they love shopping. There are people who make money. There are hedge funds nowadays backing people who are great at picking sports teams and sports contests. You know this all from the book. But there is a career associated with what you would love to do on a daily basis. So go find it and be fearless about it. And don't be afraid to take other jobs to pay the bills while you pursue this. Because guaranteed there's something remunerative associated with what you're brilliant at. So go out and be brilliant.
Folks, what can I add to that? Nothing, except that you've been watching A New Direction and listening to A New Direction. John Tamney, you have been amazing, and I want to thank you, and I am serious. I will I may see you sooner than you realize because I will be in Baltimore and I may drop down and surprise you.
Please do.
I may surprise you in a couple weeks. Folks,
Please do.
You've been listening to and watching A New Direction. We've been with John Tamney. What a great book, great man. Read him, look for him. His name is Tamny. And it's John. Look him up, find him. He's just a wealth of resources. And folks, as I say to you every week, listen, be inspired, because when you're inspired, you can inspire someone else. And when you inspire someone, that is the catalyst that gets things in motion to help people find a new direction. So find your new direction today, be inspired, and I will talk to you next week. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Jay. Thank you so much.
When you lost your confidence and the answers don't make sense, you got to keep your hope alive. You got to know you can survive. This is your time to fly. A new direction, a brand new day. A new direction, things are gonna change. You can find the strength to go a different way, yeah. The time has come, your dreams will take you places.